In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000, my heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The Internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get started again.
This show is not intended for the politically correct or the closed-minded. Enter at the risk of opening your eyes. You have been warned.
Why does the media attack an issue? To get primetime ratings?
In my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again for the truth to sink in.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
A moment comes when we step from the old to the new, and when the soul of a nation, long suppressed, finds utterance.
To kind of catapult the propaganda.
You are listening to Open Eyes with your host, Ira Robinson. From the normal to the paranormal, from government cover-ups to the depths of our consciousness, we aim to explore all things. From the dawn of prehistory to current events, no topic is forbidden and nothing remains hidden.
No more secrets.
Open your eyes and open your mind to the fact that life as we know it is not as we have been taught. Join us at LateNightInTheMidlands.com or OpenEyesNetwork.com as we take this brief journey through the depths of the cosmos and explore what it really means to be human.
Many peoples have sacrificed their liberties, only to learn to their sorrow that deceit and mockery, poverty and tyranny are their reward.
Whether you're online or offline, intercontinental or intergalactic, hello and welcome to Open Eyes. Today is Friday, July 17th, 2015, and I have a big show in store for you guys. There's been a very large series of events that's happened over the past 24 to 48 hours, and there are a lot of things that need to be caught up on. So, hopefully we'll be able to get through it all. Tonight's main topic is going to be the topic of Lucifer and all of the things that are associated with Lucifer and the devil and Satan and however it is that you want to refer to this being, this entity, this dark lord of the underworld, however you want to put it. So many people out there are caught up in the belief system of it and caught up in the mythology of it and all of that stuff that gets associated with it. And we're going to cut through everything and get to the truth about exactly what this entity is. Tonight, I do have a special guest who is joining me. This is a person who you have heard on my show once before, and you've heard on Late Night in the Midlands at least once before. It is nepotism or anything like that brings this person about, but this person is Bethany Robinson, my eldest daughter. Hello, Bethany.
Hello, Daddy. And hello, Late Night in the Midlands and Open Eyes listeners.
Indeed. It's very nice to have you back on the show again tonight.
It's nice to be here. I'm sitting in my Fortress of Solitude.
Your Fortress of Solitude as opposed to Joe's Dungeon of Truth.
Indeed.
I need to have something referring to my place. I don't know. I'll have to figure that out. I'll have to figure that out. Anyways, I'm bringing Bethany on because of a story in particular that I had sent to her kind of at random earlier today. And the story really, really got her goat. And she wanted to have a forum to vent about this topic. And you know, Bethany, you really are really big in the activist world. You've done a lot of different things trying to bring information out to people regarding different social anxieties and everything. I mean, everything from mental illness to gay rights to the rights of single mothers and so on and so forth. You're kind of a walking, talking activist.
I try to be. I mean, I won't try to brag, but I mean.
I think you do a good job. You definitely are on the forefront of things, and that's kind of one of the main reasons why I really wanted to let you have this forum tonight to be able to speak about that particular topic. We're going to get to that one after we take the first break, and then Bethany, I don't think you're going to be with us for the whole show. So yeah, tonight. It's kind of late at night for you, and you're currently gestating a baby and kind of draining your energy. So yeah. I'll hit the topic of Lucifer myself, but you'll at least be here for the news section and for that particular part of the show.
Yep.
Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get to the news. All the news that is news and was news and should be news and isn't news and all that kind of good stuff. So, of course, the big...
What we're offended by today.
Yeah, pretty much. Of course, the big news on everybody's lips as of today is the fact that in Chattanooga, Tennessee yesterday, there was a big shooting incident that took place. And I have one article that is in relation to this, and I'll get to my personal thoughts after I get through it. Shootings at a pair of military facilities in Chattanooga, Tennessee on Thursday left 5 people dead, including 4 Marines and the lone gunman, officials said. The shooter was later identified by the FBI as 24-year-old Mohammed Yusuf Abdulaziz. According to the Associated Press, they cited a U.S. official in saying that there was no indication that the suspect was under investigation by the FBI or on the radar of federal law enforcement before the shooting took place. Chattanooga Mayor Andy Burke said, it is incomprehensible to see what happened. This is a nightmare for the city of Chattanooga. 3 other people, including a Chattanooga police officer, were wounded in the shootings, and they were transported to local hospitals with non-life-threatening injuries. The shootings began shortly after 10:30 a.m. at a National Guard office in a strip mall on Lee Highway. A witness there described hearing as many as 20 shots fired there before the gunman fled. Police say that Abdulaziz then drove 7 miles to the Chattanooga Naval Reserve Center, where a witness told CNN that she saw a man with a high-powered rifle fire multiple shots from a convertible silver Mustang into recruiting offices at the center shortly before 11 a.m. 4 U.S. Marines were killed at the Naval Center, Pentagon officials told CNN. Their names have not yet been released, and Abdulaziz was killed at the scene. So that's the main news that has come out in relation to this shooting as of the time of this recording. Now, by the time that you guys hear the broadcast of this show, things may be different and new information may be coming to light, but that's kind of it at this point in time. This is about 12 hours after the shootings took place. Now, the thing that I noticed, Beth, when I read this story and I heard about this incident taking place is that this is the same day that James Holmes has been found guilty of murder in the Aurora movie theater shootings.
Correct.
This is not the first time that something like this has occurred, because in the South Carolina shootings with Dylan Stormroof, the same day that shooting took place, the Boston Marathon bomber was found guilty. So is this a coincidence? Is this only a coincidence?
I think not.
Exactly. If this was just an isolated incident, I mean, I when I saw the Boston Marathon thing, the guy getting proved, or the guilty verdict on that day, I was like, okay, well, that's a little strange, but coincidence, that
right.
Could be. But then this, on the exact same thing happening, no. That's not coincidence, people.
Fool me once, shame on you.
Exactly.
Fool me twice.
Exactly. You can only pull the wool over my eyes once before I go blind and get sick of it. So that was one thing. And then as well, this is the second day of the whole Jade Helm thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the Jade Helm thing is in regards to exactly this kind of thing occurring, where domestic terrorists are coming in to attack, and what are we going to do, and all this kind of stuff. So just like in the
not exactly an active shooter drill, but
well, I've been looking. I saw, or I found, when the South Carolina shootings took place, there was an active shooter drill that was taking place in Charleston, South Carolina on that day, that had been enacted as of February.
Right.
So are we going to find something like that with this? I'm not going to be surprised if so. Every time one of these kind of events ends up occurring, there always seems to be the drill of the exact same scenario. So we saw it with 9/11, where there was a drill of if commercial jetliners are taken over by terrorists and flown into buildings. In fact, it was such a drill that when NORAD was looking to scramble fighters, they were actually asking, is this related to the drill?
Right.
And then Dick Cheney, of course, said, don't launch any fighters. So, yeah. And then the 7/7 bombings, the ones that happened in London on the subways, lo and behold, there was a drill running of what would happen if there were bombs in the subways on that day.
Right.
When the Eric Garner...
I think not.
Yeah, again, when the Eric Garner death took place and the protests were going on, and the crazy guy shot the two cops to death in the cop cars, on that same day, there was a drill going on of what would happen if police officers are under attack by different gang bangers and all this kind of stuff. So, again, the same scenario taking place.
Mm-hmm.
Over and over and over again, we see this. So
it's not as if they have these every day.
Exactly. And they just so happen to be taking place the exact scenario at the exact same day in the exact same place. Come on.
And it's not even just like, oh, it happened once or twice. Okay, that's fine. That's probably coincidence. But over and over and over again.
I can list you 19 off the top of my head where this type of thing has happened. So, when you get one or two, yeah, you can maybe write it off as coincidence. But when you're talking 19, 20, 30 of them, no, that goes into the realm of this was planned.
Right.
So I'm not going to be surprised if I run across something, proving that there was this exact same scenario happening at this location at this time. I haven't run across it yet, but I haven't looked as in depth as I should at this point in time. I just haven't had time to yet.
I find it curious. I personally don't have a TV. I don't have any sort of cable or like regular digital TV or anything like that. So I get most of my news from the internet. And a lot of times I pretty much stay on the same sites like Facebook, Tumblr, whatnot. I haven't heard anything about this except for when I was in the chat room today.
See, isn't that interesting? It's not really getting big news. But, and what I noticed is that when the shooting took place, you didn't see Obama coming out on national TV calling for everybody to be at peace and everything's fine and so on and so forth. He did that within a matter of just a couple of hours after the shootings took place in South Carolina.
Right.
So where's he? Yeah,
Indeed,
it's just a really crazy situation that's going on, and it's got me curious. I'm going to keep my eyes open on it. I just wanted to make sure to let people know the information that I came across as far as the non-coincidental coincidences that were going on with it, just even on the face of it. And another thing as well that I really would like to point out with this is that in any kind of military base or recruiting offices, they are considered to be gun-free zones.
Mm-hmm.
So this keeps happening over and over, where people can come right onto military bases and start blowing away our soldiers. It's not the first time that this has happened. Exactly. I mean, you would think that if anything, the military bases would be the ones to be heavily armed, right?
I mean, the military does have its own police force, so you'd think.
Exactly. But no, they're gun-free zones. And of course, people are going to take advantage of that. So, I'm not chalking this up as being a false flag kind of an incident yet, but I've got my eyes open, and I'm not going to discount the possibility that it is exactly that. So maybe take a look and see what they're trying to distract us from, in the meantime. I don't know. So let me get to the next story here. There was a report that I did on Brothers at Arms on Thursday night. If you guys want to go into the archives and listen to that show, I definitely recommend doing so. It was a great episode. Joe and I brought out some excellent information, and we talked about the violation of our rights on a constant basis. You can go into the archives at openeyesnetwork.com, go to BA019, and listen to the episode from Thursday night. That'd be on Thursday on the 15th of July, or 16th of July, sorry. I got to get my days right. And anyways, we brought you a story about the Veterans Administration. Basically, there are 800,000 people that are still awaiting getting any kind of help in a backlog with the VA administration, the Veterans Administration, and that over 238,000 people have died. These are veterans. 238,000 veterans have died while waiting to get help from the VA.
Mm-hmm.
So a story that I ran across today that's in relation to that says, the latest embarrassing episode for the Veterans Affairs Department comes alongside questions surrounding 240,000 deceased veterans on agency medical waiting lists and worries from senators that physician credentialing problems in Arizona may stop cancer treatments for veterans there. Staffers for Representative Julie Brownlee said officials from the VA's Inspector General's office confirmed they found key pieces of paperwork from veterans' claims files inappropriately placed in shred bins at the department's Los Angeles regional office. So they shredded their applications.
Oh, man.
VA officials said only 10 files were misplaced in the bins, and the items would have been subject to additional review before being destroyed. They downplayed the problem as a one-time mistake from a small number of workers, not malicious intent. Well, we can call BS on that right there, right?
Yeah. The veterans have been pooped on for years.
Oh, it's shameful. It's shameful how the veterans are treated in this country.
There's a reason our homeless population is mostly veterans. And it's extremely sad.
The last statistic that I remember seeing was somewhere around 1/3 of our homeless population is veterans, is made up of veterans. I mean, it's despicable. It's despicable how they're treated over and over. It's despicable how they're treated by the public, to begin with. I'm not one that supports the military. You know that from experience. I don't support the military. The things that it does, the methods that are being used, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, I definitely don't advocate for the mistreatment of our veterans. You know,
I mean, my thing is I have no love in my heart for the military, but I have love in my heart for the people that serve it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know, and when I say, when I see people on Facebook and so on and so forth, and they, you know, put out a picture of support your troops and all this kind of stuff, you know, it kind of drives me nuts, because that's not supporting the troops. If you really want to support the troops, go out and actually give these people some help. Again, 1/3 of the population of homeless people is made up of veterans that need help. You putting up a picture saying support your troops is not going to do them a bit of good. Actually go out and give them some help. Because obviously the Veterans Administration's not going to do it. There's 800,000 of them still waiting in a backlog, just waiting for somebody to come along and help them out.
Right.
It's ridiculous. It's a sad state of affairs. And again, it's a shame on us, we the people, that our veterans are being treated that way.
I mean, these are the people that we should be helping first. I mean, first and foremost.
They were promised by the government that they would be taken care of.
Right.
And obviously they're not being taken care of at all.
Quite the opposite.
Now here's another little addition to the story. 7 years ago, after similar allegations of improper document shredding hit the department, the Inspector General recommended a host of new controls to ensure critical paperwork was not being lost in the system. So apparently they didn't do a bit of good, because
Right.
this same thing occurred 7 years ago and is probably occurring every single day. I mean, this is just the ones that they were busted with.
Yeah, this is just ones that have been reported.
They insist that these particular problems were corrected back in the spring, and added that all relevant personnel in the regional office have been retrained.
We shall see.
Yeah, indeed. It's a despicable situation. It really is. Okay, so let's get into the next story. This one is a little crazy. In light of recent tragedies across the country that have sparked impassioned debates on race relations, a public high school teacher in Seattle has developed curriculum to teach white America about racism. Published to his blog, fittingly named Citizenship and Social Justice after the course that he teaches at the Center School in Seattle, Washington, John Greenberg assembled anecdotes, admonishments, and links to create the curriculum for white Americans to educate themselves on race and racism from Ferguson to Charleston.
Only from Ferguson to Charleston, though. Not anything for the past 1,000 years.
Yeah. Nevertheless, the movement for racial justice needs more white Americans to get involved, and it's our responsibility to help each other get involved, and get involved productively. This is what Greenberg has to say about his study, his course. He claims that he's quoting Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to black women in that little bit. Greenberg's curriculum begins with an anecdote of a discussion he's had with his students, admittingly several days into his lessons, during which his students spend time exploring the concept of white privilege and the history of race and racism in the United States. During the discussion, Greenberg asked his students who experiences the societal-sized boot of racism and oppression in society more, people of color, or who does the oppressing, a reluctant answer of white people, and whose responsibility it is to stop the oppression. So he said, everyone has a role in ending racism, but the boot analogy shows how little sense it makes for only those facing the heel end of oppression to do all the work. It's time for white America to take on a far bigger role in taking off the boot. So he then includes a series of links to reading material, the majority of which focuses on the recent killings of black men. The links are organized by topics, which are reading articles written specifically for white Americans understanding whiteness, white privilege, microaggressions, and a history of racial discrimination, joining groups, and parenting racially conscious children.
Interesting.
Yeah. So let me get your thoughts on that first before I get into mine.
Okay. So first of all, you said this was a high school course, or was it something that was like an elective?
Yeah, it's a high school.
Okay. So my first thought is, I don't know about anyone else, but when I was a high schooler, when I heard something over and over and over again, I kind of wanted to go the other way. So instead of making me less racist, I probably would have been more.
And you're a pretty racially conscious person, you know?
I am.
But I mean, you're like me, you know, Native American primarily. So, you know, we both find this kind of, white guilt thinking to be so stupid. You know, it really is the height of stupidity.
That brings me to my next question. Will this be taught to all students, or will it only be the ones they consider white?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's a really good question. I didn't think about that one.
Because, I mean, I don't technically consider myself white, but I do have to put that on all of my legal applications. And then my third thing with all of this is just the fact that, like, it's not just a white problem. It is an all-over problem.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I have known many people of many different quote-unquote races over the years, and I really hate even using the race word. We're all one race. Stop with the race thing, you know?
We're all people, just different skin tones.
Exactly. That's one thing that really kind of drives me nuts. I wish that people would stop focusing on this issue of, you know, the black race versus the white race. No, it's stupid. Let's go backwards a little bit and even just eliminate that term from the whole thing, because that'll eliminate it all. You know, we're all human beings. That's it. Anyways, I see like statistics coming out of the different, like the FBI. Here, let me put it to you this way. The FBI, they recently released census info showing the amount of crimes that are being done by each different race to other races. Okay. So like white on white killings, black on black killings, black on white killings, and white to black killings. Okay. So does that make sense okay. So if I remember the statistics correctly, it's out of 1 million of the population of each of these races. So 1 million blacks to 1 million whites.
I do have to ask, sorry, one quick question. Is it just blacks and whites, or does it include like the other minorities as well?
Well, this particular one, it only includes the blacks and whites. There are all of the statistics available, but the ones that I was just looking at was just the black and the white ones here.
Fair enough.
So yeah, but there are the other statistics available too. Anyways, so for like, again, 1 million whites to 1 million blacks, you know, kind of grouped together, looking at the amount of crime that's done between each. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this is in regards to killings alone. The amount of black people killed by white people was 0.77. So not even one black person killed by white person per 1 million people. Okay. Mm-hmm. The amount of black people killing white people was, if I remember correctly, it was about 10.5. So 10 people, 10-ish people per 1 million people killed by blacks who were whites. Okay. Now here's the other statistic that is very important to get. The amount of black people killed by black people out of 1 million people is 54. Mm-hmm. So the amount of white people killing black people is 0.77. The amount of black people killing black people is 54.
Right.
But the number that people are focusing on and apparently so concerned about is the 0.77. We got to stop.
Even though that's barely a person.
Yeah, exactly. We've got to stop with the thought that there is this, inter-crime thing going on. There is, yes, and it's important to look at, but the more important statistic out of it all, I think, is the fact that there is so much black on black crime being done.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the biggest number is. So, I mean, they're doing it to themselves.
Right.
And that's what really needs to be focused on. But the more that they keep the attention divided away from that statistic and into it's white people that are killing black people, the more they can keep everything under their thumb and under their control.
The thing that always gets me with these studies that are like released in the news and everything is just the fact that like they always focus on one thing. Even though there's this huge, broad topic, they want you to focus on one or two things.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's all about the distraction. They grab hold of the one thing and they just, latch onto it like it's a starving cow on a tit. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Everything is clickbait articles.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep, exactly. And what is it with so many news outlets today just doing the quick video clips instead of actually writing out an article? Have you noticed that?
Man, that makes me mad.
It does me
I
too.
just want to read it. I don't feel like listening to somebody talk.
It's all about the Twitter generation, I think. Nobody can really think more than 140 characters at a time. So
pretty much.
That drives me nuts. I think that really is doing the entire country a disservice.
Like, the average American has a attention span of about 10 seconds.
Which is sad because the attention span of a goldfish is, at about 4 to 5 minutes. So,
right.
We
have the attention span of less than a goldfish.
Pretty much. It's sad. It really is sad. So I have one more news story and then we'll hit the break and we'll get to the story that got your goat. In the name of fairness, congressional Democrats introduced a bill on Wednesday that would put significant restrictions on how employers schedule their employees. Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren said, "This bill is about basic fairness. A single mom should know if her hours are being canceled before she arranges for daycare and drives halfway across town to show up at work." Nearly 80 lawmakers out of the House and Senate introduced the measure called the Schedules That Work Act. It will add restrictions on how employers can schedule their employees, and if passed, it would ban employers from putting their employees on call, splitting their shifts, sending workers home with no pay, or punishing them for requesting schedule changes. So, what do you think about this so far?
Okay, so here's my thing. We already have quite a bit of restrictions on work hours, and it's not even all the actual restrictions that are causing it. A lot of it, I have pretty much only seen jobs lately where they only want you to work 28 hours or less because they don't want to provide you insurance.
Right, exactly, because of the Obamacare situation. Yeah.
So we already have quite a bit of restrictions on working. Now, as a person who has to work to get their income, when I can get extra hours, I like to. Now, that's me personally. But I think that when I am a mother, I probably would like to know when I would be scheduled. So I can understand why this is good, but I also think that it's more of an employer thing rather than a bill that should be totally over the entire United States.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that too. It's a thing of a lot of companies out there, they hire employees actually to be like floater employees. For example, where my wife works, there are a couple of employees that work there that are only there to work days that people call off. Mm-hmm. So they'll call them in. They are there to work like days where they need a fill-in kind of thing. Right. So somebody like that, somebody that was hired in on the basis of that, for instance, they wouldn't be able to be working
would
there.
Exist.
Right, exactly. They would not exist. So
the other thing that I had to say about that too is what about nurses and doctors that are on call? Would that be eradicated as well?
That's a good question. I think that with those, a lot of those are actually salaried employees, and I'm not sure if this actually would cover any salaried employees. I think this would be more for the wage workers. So with salaried employees, I think they work out slightly differently.
Right.
I know that
that was something that came into my mind.
Yeah. Well, my thought is that the restrictions that are going to come out of this are going to be really bad for employers all the way around. I think it's going to cut jobs, which we don't need. We don't need to do that. There's already few enough jobs anyways. Let me see here. Executive Director at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Mark Friedman, said this bill is extraordinarily intrusive in how it would direct employers to run their operations. It's not going to create new jobs, open up opportunities, or spur economic growth. In fact, one potential consequence is that employers will cut back on the number of part-time and other non-full-time employees that they carry. And I have to fully agree with him on that. That's exactly what's going to come about.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know that in my case, with my fiance, I don't personally work right now just because, number one, it's just too much for me. And number two, I can pretty much not find a job. But I know in my fiance's case, he has to be able to have on-call hours or we don't make rent for the month.
Yeah, and you guys are definitely not alone with that either. Like I said before, it's a sad state of affairs here in the United States where a full-time employee working minimum wage hours cannot afford rent anywhere within the United States. You actually have to have 2 full-time jobs working minimum wage in order to afford to live anywhere. So many people now, they're forced to take roommates and so on and so forth just to be able to survive.
But hey, it sounds like Chris is going to be able to get a second job at Walmart, so at least there's that.
Hey, what a wonderful thing. Walmart for the win, right?
Right.
At least somebody's
Definitely
thriving.
Not the place that I'd like him to be working at, but at least they pay good.
Yeah. Well, listen, let's go ahead and take a break here. And when we come back, we'll get into the topic that you had on your mind. And that is the new First Amendment Defense Act that is currently being working its way through Congress. We'll get to that when we come back from the break. Stick around. You're listening to Open Eyes. My name is Ira Robinson. Make sure you go to openeyesnetwork.com and join the chat room there, or go to lnmradionetwork.com and join the chat room there. We have a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week station, and we are listener supported, so please consider hitting the subscribe button or hitting the donate button so that you can help us to stay on the air and bring you great shows like this. We'll be right back.
The L&M Radio Network and Late Night in the Midlands depends on you, the listener. Without you, there would be no us. So help us continue to bring you the best guests with the best information and subscribe today. Information on becoming an L&M subscriber can be found at the top of LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Just click the About Subscriptions tab and become part of the family while helping the truth stay alive. And while you're at it, maybe subscriptions aren't for you. A one-time donation helps as well. Click that donate button on the right side of LateNightInTheMidlands.com and help us help you.
How do we draw the line between protection of national security, obviously the government's need to obtain intelligence data, and the protection of civil liberties, particularly the sanctity of my home? You've got no right to come into my home.
The government's been in bed with the entire telecommunications industry since the 40s. They've infected everything. They get into your bank statements, your computer files, your email, listen to your phone calls, every wire, every airwave. You're talking to your wife on the phone, you use the word bomb, president, Allah, any of 100 key words. The computer recognizes it, automatically records it, red flags it for analysis. That was 20 years ago.
sooner or later you have to bring in an element of persuasion, an element of getting people to consent to what is happening to them. We are in process of developing a whole series of techniques which will enable the controlling oligarchy to get people actually to love their servitude.
Transmission. So I'll admit it, I'm a geek. I love anything science fiction or fantasy. I love to collect things that are related to the things that I like. There's a place that I go to find unique things. It's an Etsy shop that's called The Geeky Stitcher. They have some amazing and one-of-a-kind handcrafted collectibles on a lot of my favorite science fiction and fantasy-related shows and movies. You know, geek stuff. They have things like gloves that look just like the TARDIS from Doctor Who. They have crocheted figures from Star Trek, Disney movies, even Navi from The Legend of Zelda. They're all made with love, and they have a unique style, and best of all, they're cheaply priced. They'll even do custom orders. All you have to do is let them know what you would like to see made, and they'll get right on it. Check them out today at thegeekystitcher.etsy.com, or you can also go to their Facebook fan page, which is found at The Geeky Stitcher. Go there today. I'm sure you guys will find something that you would really, really love. And welcome back to Open Eyes. My name is Ira Robinson, and I want to thank you guys for sticking around through that break. I definitely appreciate it. This has definitely been an interesting episode so far, and I hope that you guys have been enjoying it as much as me. I have as my special guest tonight, who is somebody very special to me. It's my eldest daughter, Bethany Robinson. Hello, Beth.
Hello.
Once again. And so we have a bit of a weird one that is just kind of cropped up out of nowhere tonight. And I sent the link for this story to Bethany earlier tonight, just kind of at random, wanting to get her thoughts on this subject. And she definitely did not take it sitting down, that's for sure.
I very seriously considered buying a plane ticket to Washington, D.C. and just raging.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I kind of felt the same way when I read this article as well. So let me go ahead and read this article for you guys out there, and you guys will have an understanding of this. This comes from the Huffington Post. So as Joe puts it, the Huffington Post. In the wake of the United States Supreme Court decision in favor of same-sex marriage, Republicans are pushing legislation that aims to protect Americans who oppose these unions on religious grounds. But critics say the language is so broad that the bill creates a license to discriminate that would let employers fire women for getting pregnant outside of wedlock. The First Amendment Defense Act prohibits the federal government from taking discriminatory action against a person, which is defined to include for-profit corporations, acting in accordance with a religious belief that favors so-called traditional marriage. This means the feds can't revoke a nonprofit's tax-exempt status or end a company's federal contractor over this issue. So far, so good. That doesn't sound bad. Okay. I think that companies should have the right to decide, what kind of focus they want to have their place on it. And if they focus on having a traditional outlook, so be it. I don't think that they can have their status removed for just thinking that way. But anyways, the bill specifically protects those who believe that marriage is between one man and one woman, or that sexual relations are properly reserved to such a marriage. Ian Thompson, a legislative representative at the American Civil Liberties Union, sorry, Joe, said that in addition to targeting lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people, the bill clearly encompasses discrimination against single mothers and would hobble the ability of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or the EEOC, the federal body that protects women from sex-based discrimination, to act. This scenario isn't merely hypothetical. There are a number of recent cases where religious schools have fined unwed teachers for becoming pregnant. A Montana Catholic school teacher who was fired for having a baby out of wedlock, for example, filed a discrimination charge last year with the EEOC. While the U.S. Supreme Court has recognized a ministerial exception to employment discrimination laws, that exception is somewhat limited and not necessarily covering educators employed by Catholic schools who teach about exclusively secular subjects. James Ryan, a spokesman for the EEOC, said the commission could not comment on pending legislation in Congress. At a press conference on Thursday, Representative Raul Labrador of Idaho, who authored the House bill, strongly denied that it could be used this way. A quote from him, "It's just allowing people to continue to believe the way that they do." Okay, I have to stop for just a second here before my brain explodes all over the place. Just with that comment alone, I'll get your comments here as well. Nobody is trying to stop anybody from believing the way that they do. What the hell kind of crap is that?
Well, I mean, I could argue with I understand where they're coming from with this bill, because I do think that it's wrong that there are gay couples and lesbian couples that are suing these companies.
Oh, absolutely.
Thousands of millions of dollars for them not being able to be served, which I understand why they're upset. I absolutely do, even though I am very for gay rights.
Right.
Believe me. But, I mean, okay,
well, I'll get your thoughts then finishing after I get done reading this. But you're right, though. just not that long ago, I think, what was it, last week, I brought to, I believe it was Brothers at Arms. It was either Brothers at Arms or Open Eyes. It was one of the two.
Yeah. I think it was
a story about a lesbian couple who had sued a company in Oklahoma, I believe it was. It was either Oklahoma or Oregon. Mm-hmm. And they actually won $135,000 from a bakery for them not serving them a cake for their wedding.
Which I think is totally and completely wrong. If you
It is.
don't want to like get a cake at a place that has a religious person there that clearly doesn't believe in what you do, don't go there.
Exactly. I mean, my thing is, and listen, you know a lot of gay people, okay?
Oh, yeah. Most of my friends are.
If you had a gay friend or gay couple that you knew that was getting married, wouldn't you recommend that they would go to a gay bakery because they would bake them a fabulous cake?
Absolutely.
I mean, come on. And I'm not trying to be...
I mean, I can understand also where the LGBT people are coming from as well, because, I mean, they want to get the best cake that they can.
Yes.
And if a Christian bakery is producing a better cake than a gay bakery, I can understand why they went to the Christian one.
I can too, but also I wouldn't at the same time sue them for not serving me. And I think that is where the ridiculousness of it comes along.
Ridiculousness is just bad.
It's on both sides.
It started with the McDonald's and their hot coffee, and it's just evolved to this.
Yeah, and it's on both sides. I mean, it's not just it's not just a problem with the gays doing this, but it's the problem with the Christians doing this kind of stuff at the same time. Mm-hmm. They're just butting heads so much that we're all getting caught in the middle. Those of us who kind of remain neutral on the subjects or don't have a dog in the fight one way or the other, we're still getting crapped on because of it all, The
militants are ruining it for everyone.
Exactly. Anyways, like I said, that case that I brought out last week, the thing that drove me nuts about that one the most is the fact that the lesbian couple was claiming that they felt like they were mentally raped because the bakery didn't allow them to bake the cake. I don't get that. That was...
I have some PTSD, but that's about it.
Yeah. Anyways, okay, so... when Senator Mike Lee was asked, he introduced the Senate bill about a hypothetical university firing an unmarried woman for having sex out of wedlock. He said, "There are colleges and universities that have a religious belief that sexual relations are to be reserved for marriage, and they ought to be protected in their religious freedom." The legislation is picking up steam, with pressure reportedly mounting on GOP leaders to call a vote this month on the bill. When House Speaker John Boehner, who was asked on Thursday what he thinks of the bill and whether he'll bring it to the floor, he said, "The Supreme Court's decision on marriage raises a lot of other questions, and a number of members have concerns about the issues it raises. No decision has been made on how to best address these." Thompson said that this is not the only problem with the bill. He said that it would eviscerate anti-discrimination protections for LGBT federal contractors signed into law by President Obama last year, and allows federal grantees to turn away LGBT people from homeless shelter services or drug treatment programs. Comparing it to a religious freedom bill in Indiana that faced national backlash, he said this bill is Indiana on steroids.
You've got that right.
We covered the Indiana Religious Freedom Act here on our shows a few times when it was really, taking heat. And
well, that was in your state, so you kind of had to.
Exactly. Yeah, it was here in our backyard. So this bill, if this thing is passed, this is going to be a nightmare. Absolute nightmare.
Oh, man.
Let's get your thoughts on it here.
Okay. So, first of all, I have to put a little disclaimer on here. I am pregnant with a child. I am unmarried, and I do not plan on getting married anytime soon. So this bill, if it does pass, directly affects me. It is hard enough for a single mother. including the fact that it's really, really hard to get a job while pregnant and keep that job after you have the baby. They will find any and all reason to fire you. And it's just the fact that, like, it's not my employer's business to have an opinion about what I do with my body and my family. Like, if the woman was raped and decided to keep the baby, like most pro-lifers want, they don't want them to have abortion, so they say keep the baby. That directly violates this law. Apparently, that means that they can't get jobs either. So how they're going to take care of this child that they're having that they didn't even want to begin with.
Yeah, and let me interject into there as well. The thing that always drives me nuts about the people who are pro-lifers, and not that I'm not a pro-lifer or anything like that. I don't have the plumbing to be, able to say
Abortion
one way
was
or
never
the
an
other with
option
this.
for me, but I absolutely defend it for anyone else.
Well, okay, so let me say this then. The way that I look at it is, I see the people out there that are pro-life and that are screaming and hollering about you got to keep the child and blah 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 and do everything blah blah blah. Okay, so I hear their arguments. I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, I know very well that the people that are out there screaming and hollering about this fact also will do absolutely nothing to help that mother out once the child is there. If the child is born, that's the only thing that they care about. They don't give two craps what happens to the kid after it's born, whether it's born into a life of horrendous circumstances because the mother is absolutely, the most abusive person on the face of the planet, or, they grow up to be, in abject poverty and on and on and on. Whatever the case may be, the people who preach and spout about the fact that the child needs to be born and it's a life, make it born, blah, 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 will do absolutely nothing to help that child once it's actually born. And they'll actually scream and holler on the other side, because it tends to be the conservatives as well who holler about this. They also scream and holler on the other side about the fact that the welfare system is out of control and we need to stop these welfare mothers and blah, blah. Well, what? Quit being so freaking bipolar. Quit being so freaking bipolar about this issue and decide one way or the other. If you want the kids, then take care of the freaking kids. And if you don't want the kids, then stop bitching about it.
Right. Oh my God. Like, they made the welfare mothers. It's not the
You get my point.
I'm sorry, I am not a Republican at all. I don't like to align myself with a political party, but I am absolutely and completely liberal. I am sorry.
You're as bad as left wing as it gets. I know this. Yeah. I have a very centrist viewpoint on things, me, but I know you're about as liberal as they come. We put you and Joe into a room together, and it's kind of like the black hole opens up and the portal opens up into the next generation.
When you in a room and it's just like one side's arguing with the other side and you're just like trying to catch monkey in the middle and just
yeah. So you have definitely a dog in this fight though with it, because you are this single unwed mother, and you will be directly impacted by this kind of a legislation. And I mean, for my side of things, you were not born under the best of circumstances, and my other two kids weren't born under the best of circumstances. We would have fallen into this thing too. So exactly. This is stupid. I mean, again, the thing that really drove me to distraction with it is the guy trying to say that, we're just trying to make sure that people, what was it? Let me get the exact quote here again, because it drives me nuts when I don't do that.
It's just allowing people to continue believing the way that they do.
Yes, thank you. Nobody's trying to stop anybody from believing the way that they do. Stop with that kind of rhetoric. That rhetoric right there is what's killing this whole situation. Okay.
You're killing our religious freedoms.
Nobody is, when the LGBTs got the ability to be married, which, I mean, come on, people, deal with it. It's a law now.
About time, in my opinion.
It absolutely is about time. It's a law now. People just have to deal with it. Okay, so quit your whining like you're a bunch of little pussies and get together and decide that you're going to do the Christian thing, because most of the people are Christians, right? Do the Christian thing like what Christ said to do and take care of people.
Okay. And they just need to stop being so freaking.
Well, it drives me nuts.
sex.
It drives me nuts because what did Christ have to say about homosexuality? Nothing. Not one word. Not one word. And I'm sorry, but I covered homosexuality last week, or Wednesday. Was it? No. Last week on my shows, going into exactly what the Bible has to say in relation to the gay problem. Okay, nothing. That's what it really boils down to.
I also like when people reference it as the gay agenda, and I'm just like, we don't have an agenda. We just want to be married and have our lives normal, just like anyone else.
Well, okay, now you do have to admit there are the militants that are out there. I mean, just like what there is on both sides, there are the militants out there that are there to cause problems. You know,
there are absolutely the militants, but there are militants in everything.
Yes,
there are militants in feminism. There's militants in Christianity. There's militants in everything that there is to have an opinion on. There are people that will take it out of control.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, when I saw the gay pride parade right out the weekend of the Marriage Act being enacted, right? And I saw them going out with Boy Scouts in the crowd wearing literally nothing, going around naked and stuff. Come on. If that was you or me, we would have been arrested in a heartbeat. You know? Well,
maybe not me, but
well, maybe not. But you know, if it was me, I'd have been arrested in a heartbeat for indecent exposure. You know, it's ridiculous. Anyways, so I mean, it's on both sides. We have this extremism on both sides, and that's what this bill is about. It's about supporting the extremism. Really, that's what my thoughts are with it.
I mean, there are so many Christians that I know that have actually apologized to me and the LGBT community because they're so appalled by the other people in this extremism, because it's just like you can't even like have an argument with them because they don't have any possible open mind to anything.
No, they literally they are as far from Christian as you can get. And that's what I keep trying to point out to people, is the fact that when you see these people doing these things, these are not Christians. If they were Christians, they wouldn't be doing this. The ones that apologize to you, for instance, that'd be an example of a good Christian.
Exactly.
You see what I mean?
I love those types of people.
Well, yeah, I can deal with them kind of people every day. You know, they're beautiful. You know, they're doing what the texts tell them to do.
I may not agree with everything that they believe, but I will let them believe what they want to.
yeah, exactly. It's no skin off of your teeth either way. They are the example that I usually point to when I talk about this kind of thing. They are the type of people that are showing the change in spirit that the Holy Spirit is supposed to bring to somebody after they've been saved. You know, so they're the ones that I would consider to be good Christians. Now, you know, in relation to this topic, the LGBT topic, and the fact that it is now legal here in the States, deal with it. You know, I have one thing to play for you just to get your thoughts on it. Okay. This is in regards to actually the same-sex marriage being legalized in, I believe it was Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And so somebody basically, they came out with a news story in relation to the same-sex marriage in Alabama. So take a listen to this and tell me what you think.
Good afternoon. This is Jeremy Attaway reporting live from Blount County. I read on the news today some information that homosexuals will be getting married in the state of Alabama today. And so I wanted to give you a live report from Blount County. All right. This pile of brush is still here. And there are no homosexuals laying on top of it doing homosexual things. None in the shed either. But we've got to check into this further. All right, we're back here at my pile of junk, and it's still here. no homosexuals laying around doing homosexual things back here. And so it looks like we're pretty safe here in Blount County, and we're not going to be subjected to any kind of plagues of homosexuals falling from the sky. So that's the report here from Blount County. Everything's pretty much still the same. Although I did see 2 squirrels earlier that were kind of suspect. So we should look into that further because it may be spread into the squirrel population. This is JT Attaway reporting for Redneck News.
So there you go.
I had to keep myself from busting out laughing. I've actually seen that video before, and it's brilliant.
It's brilliant. It is. I love it. I like to use that whenever I can, just because the guy is great. There's a couple of squirrels that are suspect over here as well, but we're dealing with them. But that's really what it comes down to. It's apparently. People think that there's some kind of weird biblical plague that's going to now occur because of homosexuals being allowed to marry here now, as opposed to the fact that we go around killing everybody. We go around drone killing everybody. We go around destroying everything that we possibly can. Those things are okay. God isn't going to destroy us for those things. But as soon as we enact gay marriage, that's where the problem is, coming in.
Yeah. My thing is like, I'm pretty sure that God would be more concerned about the people breaking the 10 Commandments, which the homosexuality is definitely not one.
No, it is not there.
I think that he'd be more concerned with that than the gay marriage.
Well, that's a really good point. The fact that if this was such a problem, you'd think it would be there in the 10 Commandments, right?
Right. Those are their absolute laws.
So yeah. And so apparently he didn't have enough concern to put it in the 10 Commandments, but he was worried enough about it that, well, he told other people they have some kind of weird special dispensation to speak for God, apparently. And so right. I do have another one for you.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I have another one for you. This is in relation to people and their fear of homosexuals. Let's see what you think about this, okay?
Okay.
Then during lunch, Ralph showed him some pornographic pictures. Jimmy knew he shouldn't be interested, but, well, he was curious. What Jimmy didn't know was that Ralph was sick, a sickness that was not visible like smallpox, but no less dangerous and contagious, a sickness of the mind. You see, Ralph was a homosexual, a person who demands an intimate relationship with members of their own sex. But by now, Jimmy felt a fondness for Ralph, and they continued to go places together. Ralph was generous and took Jimmy many interesting places and did many nice things for him. He bought presents and even gave him money, but payments were expected in return.
Watch out for them payments, Jimmy.
But all homosexuals are not passive. Some resort to violence, as in the case of Mike Merrick.
Oh, watch out, Mike.
In the heat of competition, no one noticed the man who sat and watched. And when the game broke up and the others left, Mike decided to stay and practice a little longer.
No, Mike, no.
When they finished, the stranger told him he'd make a fine player someday if he got lots of practice. The companionship, the praise, the friendly attitude dispelled any misgivings Mike might have had about going with a stranger. He probably never realized until too late that he was riding in the shadow of death. But sometime that evening, Mike Merrick traded his life for a newspaper headline.
He was riding in the shadow of death.
One never knows when the homosexual is about.
Oh, God, there's homosexuals everywhere.
And it may be too late when you discover he is mentally ill. So keep with your group. And don't go off alone with strangers unless you have the permission of your parent or teacher.
Watch out, the homosexuals are everywhere.
The stranger danger is real.
That was seriously a propaganda film from the 1950s in regards to homosexuality.
I don't doubt it. Well, while you were playing that, I was thinking, I wonder if you have any of these clips about how people are wondering how in the heck to tell their kids about how gays are getting married. They just clearly won't understand.
No, I don't have any of those. No.
Those ones are my
I mean, the ridiculousness of people, though, when it comes to this subject, it's so. This is how I think of people when I hear of people like opposing gay marriage. Okay, you ready for this?
Hi, honey. What's wrong?
They're trying to make gay marriage legal.
Oh my God. What's going to happen to our marriage?
I don't know.
But I don't want to get a divorce or marry a woman.
I know. Why do these gays want to destroy our civilization?
I'm so scared. Mommy, Daddy, if gay people are allowed to get married, will you still love me?
Let's just hope it doesn't come to that. Help keep straight couples from getting divorced and hating their children. Oppose gay marriage. Paid for by the coalition of people whose lives are ruined whenever other people are treated equally.
That's what I feel. You know?
Just, they're ruining the sanctity of my marriage. I'm pretty sure that if your sanctity of your marriage is messed up by other people getting married, you've got a problem with your marriage, not with other people.
The thing is, you know, when it comes to that argument, the argument is invalid to begin with, because if you think about it like this, until now, gays have not been allowed to be married. Okay? It's just the way it is. Gays have not been allowed to be married. But the divorce rate in the United States is 57%.
Oh, it went up?
So we are apparently destroying the sanctity of marriage in and of ourselves. I don't get the argument. You know, it's invalid to begin with, especially considering that the statistic is even higher when it comes to looking specifically at Christian marriages.
Right, exactly.
So,
and you know, that's part of their code, not to get divorced either. So
yeah, exactly.
I always have to laugh at those people. I saw a lady that was very opposed to doing her job and letting a gay couple get married, but she had 4 divorces.
Sanctity of marriage right there.
Right.
Well, listen, Beth, do you have any final thoughts? We're going to go ahead and take a break here, and I'll let you go, and I'll get to the topic of Lucifer. I know you got to get your little gestating self to bed.
Yeah, it's time for me to go to sleep. Well, I guess my biggest thing is just, you know, with this bill especially, make sure you fight it as hard as you possibly can. This is absolutely ridiculous. And just in general, keep your eyes open, obviously.
Indeed. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, Beth. I definitely appreciate it, and I appreciate your thoughts on these different subjects.
You know, it's funny. I used to think that I would never really want to be on your shows, but I actually enjoy it quite a bit.
I'm going to have you on again here real soon in the future.
Definitely.
I like having you here.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your show.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
So there you go, people. That was my my eldest daughter, Beth, and I hope that you appreciate her being on as much as I do. Her thoughts are really great to have, because she's not only such an activist when it comes to these specific topics that we were talking about here, but also she's kind of, you know, got her pulse there on the younger generation, which I don't have. So it's nice for me to be able to bounce these different thoughts off of somebody like her and get her thoughts in relation to these particular topics that are impacting, I mean, not just me, but also these future generations that are coming up. So we'll be right back. Stick around. We're going to talk next about Satan. That's right. Lucifer, the devil, and all that other good stuff that's associated with it. We'll be right back. You're listening to Open Eyes. The rising rate of autism is not just concerning, it's a disaster. No matter what the cause of it is something that everyone should be acutely aware of and actively helping out those in the community that have it. That is why Adventures in Autism was created. Adventures in Autism is a show inspired by our life with our son Seth, and the many experiences his autism has brought to our lives. Each episode we bring you the topic of the week, news about autism, and resources to help you and your family or friends out in their own adventures with autism. Tune in Mondays at noon and midnight on lnmradionetwork.com or openeyesnetwork.com and get involved in the community. Let our experiences be an inspiration to you. Ben Franklin said, "If you do the same thing tomorrow as you did today, you're going to get the same tomorrow as you got today." Changing the world starts with you, and changing you starts with changing the way you think. Late Night in the Midlands can help. Listen to all of our shows at latenightinthemidlands.com, because things really do need to change. The Late Night in the Midlands radio network is deeply devoted to you, the listener. We feel it is necessary to bring you all of the information that you can use in your life. Each and every day you will find something to listen to here. And whether you come away from the shows informed, inspired, or entertained, it is our passion. We don't bow to corporations, and we don't have handlers to tell us what not to talk about. We bring you everything. Late Night in the Midlands, however, is fully listener-supported. We need your help to stay on the air and to make sure that we get the bills paid. We need your help to keep the truth alive. If you feel that you have gotten anything out of Late Night in the Midlands, we would appreciate your support. You can become a subscriber and help us out on a monthly basis, or if you'd like, a one-time donation is fully appreciated as well. Every year, the average household in America spends over $3,000 on entertainment alone. If you could help us with just a tiny fraction of that amount, you would make all of the difference. Go to latenightinthemidlands.com and click on the subscribe button. Thank you, and as always, keep yourself informed. Well, hello there, and welcome back to Open Eyes. My name is Ira Robinson, and I want to thank you guys for sticking with me, and thank you for sticking through the first half of the show. I'm going to get into the topic now that I think it's an important topic to talk about, because so many people fall into the trap of the fear of this entity known as Lucifer, or that has become known as Lucifer. And what got me started on the thought of this topic was in Detroit, the Satanic Temple is apparently making good on its mission to erect a statue of Satan, originally intended for an ultimate destination next to the Oklahoma State Capitol's monument of the Ten Commandments. In fact, the Satanic Temple plans to unveil the completed statue for the first time in Detroit next month. So, last year the group chose Detroit as the location for its first national chapter house. A quote from spokesman Doug Mesner said, "Detroit is our first and primary chapter. We feel at home in Detroit." Well, it's kind of interesting how Detroit has become a third world country, basically. The group of culture jammers pushes for a separation of church and state by distributing satanic literature and fighting to be included alongside displays of Christianity on state grounds. Last year, the group erected a small temporary holiday display on Lansing's Capitol lawn, where it was announced that a nativity scene was being proposed for the location. The finished Oklahoma sculpture depicts Baphomet, Satanism's winged goat-faced icon. In a press release, the Satanic Temple calls the bronze monument, which weighs 1 ton and stands at nearly 9 feet tall, already the most controversial and politically charged contemporary work of art in the world. It's pretty interesting, the things that they are doing with this. The thing that comes to my mind with it is the fact that the people who are doing this, I don't think that they're doing it in a way to show any kind of worship towards Satan or Lucifer or whatever. Although, I mean, of course, I think that's part of it, but that's not the main reason for it. The main reason for it is out of a kind of a tongue-in-cheek protest kind of thing, sort of like the idea of when the Ten Commandments in Oklahoma were erected there. There were also petitions that were put into place to allow for statues of the Flying Spaghetti Monster to be put there. The Flying Spaghetti Monster is, of course, the satirical deity that is put out with the idea that we don't know what God is. We don't know how what he looks like or anything. It could be a flying spaghetti monster for all we know. Who knows? Who are we to say? And so, therefore, the flying spaghetti monster cult has gotten a foothold. Now, in relation to this, there was a while back in Fort Worth, Florida, there was a city council meeting that, before the meeting began, did what some are calling an invocation to Satan. And I've seen people completely freaking out on this particular recording. So let me play this recording for you, and I'll talk about my thoughts on it after you get done hearing it.
Our collective atheism, which is to say loving empathy, scientific evidence, and critical thinking, leads us to believe that we can create a better, more equal community without religious divisions. May we pray together. Mother Earth, we gather today in your redeeming and glorious presence to invoke your eternal guidance in the universe, the original creator of all things. May the efforts of this council blend the righteousness of Allah with the all-knowing wisdom of Satan. May Zeus, the great god of justice, grant us strength tonight. Jesus might forgive our shortcomings, while Buddha enlightens us through his divine affection. We praise you, Krishna, for the sanguine sacrifice that freed us all. After all, if Almighty Thor is with us, who can ever be against us? And finally, for the bounty of logic, reason, and science, we simply thank the atheists, agnostics, humanists, who now account for 1 in 5 Americans, and growing rapidly. In closing, let us, above all, love one another, not to obtain mythical rewards for ourselves now, hereafter, or based on superstitious threats of eternal damnation, but rather embrace secular-based principles of morality and do good for goodness sake. And so we prayed, so what?
Now, some of the responses that I've seen and heard to this thing are things like, well, I'll quote without any kind of names to protect the ignorant here. Someone should punch this jerk out in the parking lot. I'm more than happy to help. What a bag of garbage, and that includes the fools who stuck around for this mockery. You can bet that if he treated the U.S. military like this, they would have all walked out. Soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen don't take insults well. On the other hand, our side puts up with too much, and the opposition knows it. We're far too peaceful, like a negligent parent. Christianity needs to get some teeth, fast. Best thing in the world for bullies is a person who will fight back. They never expect it. Slobs like this are counting on indifference. Let's surprise them next time. Now, my response to that would be, where exactly was the U.S. military invoked in this little invocation to Satan, quote unquote? I'm sorry, but I don't remember any kind of verses where Christ said that we need to get militant. I don't know. This guy should be dragged by a truck till he's dead. We have to start standing up and making them notice if they want to pray to Allah, a satanic cult, and all others. Go somewhere you're not heard. I'm getting sick over this shit. These people make us all sick, but they are mental cases. They don't belong in a government meeting. Just take them to the woodshed, then let them go to the Middle East, and let's watch how that works out for them. Sorry to be so hateful with these cult leaders, but you tell me what they deserve. Nothing. They will definitely pay a big price. They are worthless scum. That's a very wonderful Christian attitude there. This is what you get when you vote. What an arrogant bag of wind. Go away, whoever you are. The bigger they are, the harder they will fall. Your day is coming. Oh, gee, salivating over the thought of hell there. Aren't you a good Christian? He needs some sense beaten into him before being put in federal prison for a few years. Freedom of speech is one thing, but it shouldn't be abused by the likes of this idiot. If someone doesn't like what this country was founded on, they should leave. I suggest Syria or Iran. Well, gee, isn't that what the First Amendment right is all about? And aren't you using your First Amendment right to spread your vitriol there, They should have kicked him out of the council meeting instead of walking out of it. Freedom of speech does not mean that he can slander religious freedom, nor does it mean that he can make a mockery out of religion. Well, gee, that's exactly what the First Amendment means that he can do. This is just, it's crazy. It really is. My favorite one is, may this guy be plagued with the insects of 1,000 years and lay before Satan as one of his bed sores. So the saddest part of all of this is, to me, is aside from the people saying these things having no clue about what their religion is all about, is that the sites that these stories tend to be posted on go by names like Eagle Rising, the Sons of Liberty, Freedom Outpost. I mean, talk about hypocrisy, right? You can't remove free speech without removing it from yourself as well. Free speech is not just about you and your Christian beliefs. It's about everything. Nothing is sacred because no one believes in the same way. You might have similar stances or ideologies or things like that to somebody else, but they're always going to be different, even if it's in the slightest. When you remove the ability for one to speak their mind, you remove the rights of all of us to speak our minds, and you become the tyrant that you claim these atheists want to be. It's hypocrisy at its finest. So as to the replies to this thing, again, what wonderful examples of fine Christian voices these people are. Where in the Bible or in any of the teachings that Christ did was him talking to somebody like that? Where in any of the texts have you ever seen Christ telling to the idolaters and the whores, you should be dragged out of here by a bus? I mean, maybe it was John 8:7 that Jesus said, may anybody speaking out against God be plagued with the insects of 1,000 years and lay before Satan as one of his bed sores. Oh, I'm sorry, I got that one wrong. It was actually, let any one of you who is without sin cast the first stone. People seem to forget that one. I always get the two phrasings mixed up a little bit. They're so close to each other, you know? Well, why couldn't Jesus talk any clearer? I mean, seriously, if your master would never do anything like this, then what gives you the temerity to do it yourself? If it was something that he would never do and in fact always did the opposite of, then how can you say that you're one of his followers? You're actually one of those people that he himself said, so then you will know them by their fruits. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven will enter. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, didn't we prophesy in your name, and in your name cast out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? And I'll tell them plainly, I never knew you. Get away from me, you evildoer. The only time Jesus ever got ticked off was against the money changers in the temple. He was mad about money being involved in the church. And yet, what do we see, especially here in America? Money in the church. Take a look at some of the mega churches out there. They make more money than small cities do. So, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? That's Isaiah 14:12. When people think of the word Lucifer, a few things immediately come to mind, whether you're religious or non-religious. Most people, especially of the religious bent, think of an entity. And they think that it's a being that's equated with Satan or the devil, or that he's an angel of light, and that he's able to deceive people by apparently appearing as a good guy. And it seems like almost everybody equates Satan and Lucifer together. You hear the term satanic Luciferian agenda, or, simply the Luciferian agenda. You hear that the Illuminati worship Lucifer, and hence the name Illuminated Ones, that kind of thing. That he's a demon or an antichrist figure or a dark overlord come to bring us into the realms of sin and death and destruction. And is that really the case? Or are we actually dealing with a misunderstood entity, one that's gotten a bad rep per se by hanging out with the bad kids on the wrong side of the tracks? Well, in fact, the truth of things is much, much different than what you may realize. There really is no such thing as an entity named Lucifer. Not really. Or, okay, wait a minute before you start dragging out the pitchforks and get me ready to turn into the burning at the stake. I'm sure that through the course of all this, I'm going to offend a couple of people, but, facts are facts, and one has to deal with the facts as they are stated. Hopefully you're willing to hear me out with all of this. So, let me take you back to a simpler time. A happier time. At least a happier time for the Catholic Church. They were just coming into their power, and it was about the year 382 AD. Pope Damasus I sat on the golden throne, although at that time it wasn't quite gold, and it wasn't a throne. They didn't have all of their money flowing around by then. A monk named Jerome, who was actually later sainted, was given command by the Pope to create a new version of the Bible. And it was at that time known as the Vetus Latina, or Old Latin translation. The Old Latin translation was widely used, but there were so many other translations flying around at that time. After all, it was only about 60 or so years after the Council of Nicaea, where the Bible as we know it today was decided upon. The church wanted to have a singular translation one that would be acceptable by the masses and the church at large, and that would eventually become the only translation accepted by the Catholic Church. The Varia Vulgata, or simply the Vulgate, was the one that came out of this. Roughly translated, it means the version commonly used. So it started off with translating from the Old Latin and the Septuagint, and by the time that it was all said and done, Jerome had translated everything into this new Latin version, taking sources from the Hebrew Bible, or the Old Testament, and different translations of the rest of the texts. And it was actually a pretty good feat, all things considered, because this was a really major undertaking at that time. It's not like he had Google Translate to be able to do all of this. He was a pretty smart guy. But there's one glaring little problem. And that problem is the Lucifer problem. So here's where things start. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? So, Lucifer. What a great and horrible beast this demonic entity must be. There have been those that have come out saying, oh, this devil, this Satan, this Lucifer, he's out to get all of us. He's bringing sin and death and destruction to us all. They say, beware, children, be good, obey the rules, or Lucifer's going to come in the night and take your soul. He's waiting for you in the pit, and he's going to flay your soul for all of eternity. Receive Jesus and save your soul from damnation at the hands of Satan and of Lucifer and of his demonic fallen angels. Well, let's take that little verse into a little bit of context. For the ease of listening, I'm going to read this series of verses from the New International Version translation of the Bible, but you're going to get the idea. Isaiah 14, and I'm going to start it at verse 3. And remember that verse 12 is the Lucifer part. On the day the Lord gives you relief from your suffering and turmoil, and from the harsh labor forced on you, you will take up this taunt against the king of Babylon. How the oppressor has come to an end, how his fury has ended. The Lord has broken the rod of the wicked, the scepter of the rulers, which in anger struck down peoples with unceasing blows, and in fury subdued nations. All the lands are at rest and at peace. They break into singing. Even the junipers and the cedars of Lebanon gloat over you, and they say, now that you have been laid low, no one comes to cut us down. The realm of the dead below is all astir. They're astir to meet you at your coming. It rouses the spirits of the departed to greet you, all those who were leaders in the world. It makes them rise from their thrones, all of those who were kings over the nations. They will all respond, and they will all say to you, you also have become weak as we are. You have become like us. All of your pomp has been brought down to the grave, along with the noise of your harps. Maggots are spread out beneath you, and worms cover you. How you are fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn. You have been cast down to the earth, you who once laid low the nations. You said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of assembly, on the utmost heights of Mount Zaphon. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. But you are brought down to the realms of the dead, to the depths of the pit. Those who see you stare at you. They ponder your fate. Is this the man who shook the earth and made kingdoms tremble? Is this the man who made the world a wilderness, who overthrew its cities and would not let his captives go home? All of the kings of the nations lie in state, each in his own tomb. But you are cast out of your tomb like a rejected branch. You are covered with the slain, with the pierced by the sword. Those who descended to the stones of the pit, like a corpse trampled underfoot. You will not join them in burial, for you have destroyed your land and killed your people. So go back to that and listen for a bit if you really need to get it clearly through. The context of this verse clearly shows that what is being referred to is a man, specifically the king of Babylon, the king that had kept the Jews in captivity for many, many years. Isaiah was not talking about some fallen angel from heaven cast out by God for wanting to be like him, nor was he the snake in the garden as some people try to claim. No, the prophet is clearly speaking about a specific person in a specific place at a specific time. So how could this have happened? How have we come to see things as some mythological figure out to get all of us? Well, it started because Jerome made a mistake. When he was translating that specific verse, Isaiah 14:12, the word Lucifer was given a proper name status. The words there is actually Luciferon. In other words, until that moment in time, there was no concept of evil entity out to get everybody. There was no concept of some fallen angel out to doom mankind with his lies and his betrayals. And until that moment in time, Lucifer did not exist. So think about this. The Hebrews, for whom this message was written for by Isaiah, had no concept of a being called Lucifer. And despite what some may claim, they had no real concept of a devil named Satan either. Satan, the word, is derived from the Hebrew Satan, which means adversary. Sometimes it would be ha-Satan, which means literally the adversary. The word would be used at any time that there was an adversary involved with you. In other words, if somebody stood against you on something, they were Satan. They were the adversary. Even God is referred to at times in the Old Testament as Satan because he stood in opposition or adversarialship against people or nations. And yet now we have this entity, this being that is called Satan or the devil or Lucifer, and we have a world of trouble on our hands because of it. Let me put it to you this way. How many people throughout the years have been killed or destroyed or had everything taken away from them because of being accused of being in league with Satan? The Catholic Church was rife with exactly that kind of thing for hundreds of years. How many children are born right now and are raised in abject misery because they're fearful, oppressed, and berated about Lucifer and Satan? I know I heard it quite a few times when I was a kid. I heard things like Satan is out to get you. I heard that me being empathic was me being in league with Satan. Me being able to heal somebody by laying my hands on them was me being in league with Satan, as opposed to it being considered to be a spiritual gift like what is found in 1 Corinthians. They don't even read their own freaking Bibles. So much meaningless death and despair, all because people translated something wrong, and others have run with it and made up this whole stupid business. And we laugh at those people in the ancient days that worshipped all of those different gods, and they sacrificed animals and even children to them to appease them, and gave away their lives in servitude to those that demanded it. We laugh at them and we wonder how they could have ever fallen into such a stupid trap or behave so idiotically. And then we look around and we see millions of people doing it right this moment. You want something else added to this? Jesus himself was also referred to as the morning star. 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 19. Because of that experience, we have even greater confidence in the message proclaimed by the prophets. You must pay close attention to what they wrote, for their words are like a lamp shining in a dark place, until the day dawns and Christ, the morning star, shines in your hearts. Now, clearly, it's talking about Christ, and yet the exact same wording was being used to talk about him and Lucifer. The word Lucifer is also used at least 4 more times throughout the Latin Vulgate, but it's clearly not referencing some fallen angel in those contexts either. The problem with all of this was perpetuated when the King James Version was published. Unlike any other translations that have been done, the King James Version still gives us gives Lucifer a proper name status in that Isaiah verse. And in no other translation does it appear like that. In all of those, it's properly translated as morning star or light of the morning or things along those lines. Now, folks, this is some seriously dark age mentality that's going on with all of this. We've got to move past this stuff so that we can stop being deceived and get to the real heart of the issues that are facing us today. The dark masters, those ones that are in control of things, they love the fact that people ascribe all of these evils that go on to this being Lucifer. They perpetuate the mythos by setting up institutions like the Lucifer Society or the Satanic Cult or the Satanic Temple or the Lucifer Trust or on and on and on and on. I mean, seriously, know the truth with all of this. If you've heard all of this and you do your research and you come to understand for yourself that what I'm saying here is the reality of this situation, you're going to be able to see right through the crap that gets spewed out of the mouths of some people. I mean, you can hear somebody talking about, well, Jesus told me that Lucifer is rising to power and we have to stand strong against him. You know, if you hear things like that, you instantly know it's a falsehood. Lucifer doesn't exist. And if you want to cover your ears and go la 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 as you say that stupid line about the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that he didn't exist, that's fine. That's your right to do so. But do you know where that line really comes from? Well, one example is that it's from a movie called The Usual Suspects. It's not some great profound thinker of the Renaissance era and not some wonderful preacher that spoke words of wisdom and peace. It was Kevin Spacey. The originator of it was actually P.T. Barnum. Just making sure all the facts get straightened out with all of this stuff. There's just so much deception about it. Lucifer's got to be laughing his red butt off at it all. So, I mean, does all this mean that there aren't people out there with some kind of satanic evil agenda? Well, not at all. People are going to do as people are going to do. There's always going to be those around that try to perpetuate evil and bring us further into darkness. I understand just because I know the truth of things and I don't believe in any of the mythos with it, it doesn't mean that they don't. I actually know far better. There really are those out there with some evil, hell-bent intentions for us all. But we don't have to fall into their mythology and get even more confused and not see the truth of what they're doing to us, does it? That's the point of all of this. And in case you're wondering actually what it really is, the morning star that's always being referred to in these biblical verses, well, that'd be Venus. It has actually, for almost the entirety of human history, been known as and referred to as the morning star. It also travels through the sky in a pentagram formation, and that's why the pentagram symbolism that you see always ends up getting associated with Lucifer. It's all a riddle, guys. You have the key now to understanding it all. Now, I will say as well that this doesn't exclude the possibility of an entity out there that has co-opted the name of Lucifer. I actually fully acknowledge the fact that because of these different mythos that have been raised up surrounding this Lucifer, sorry about the noise there, this Lucifer being, that there may very well be an extraterrestrial entity out there, or even a demonic entity out there that has taken on the name of this being just because it's a convenient thing. People have built up this mythos about it, so why not make use of it, right? So, like I said, I'm not saying that that is not a possibility and that we may not be dealing with something like that at times. But when it comes to the biblical texts, now you know and understand the truth of things, that there really was no Lucifer at that time. And all of the things that have now grown into association with this thing started off as a lie. Funnily enough, what Lucifer is ascribed to being the father of all the way around, right? So, you know, the kind of originator of lies originated because of a lie. I find that kind of ironic, I guess. There really is a lot more to this, but I could really go on about it for hours and still not cover it all. But I think this will make a good starting point. It'll give you a good point to start doing your own research, to start trying to find the truth regarding all of this. You're going to see that it's a lot deeper and a lot more mundane than a lot of people try to say that it is. I guess in the end of all of this, the thing that I'm trying to get across the most is that I just want people to stop being afraid of these ancient things. These things that have haunted us for thousands and thousands of years. Stop being caught in the trap that caught up our ancestors. We don't have to be afraid of the darkness anymore. We've moved past that. Stop believing the lies with all of it. Come to understand the truth yourself and come to an educated understanding of who we are, what we are, and where we're going. That's really what I advocate with all of this. We have such a lack of understanding of our own history, so much so that we are to the point that we don't even have a clue what it means to be human, let alone understand what is going on in regards to this Lucifer situation. But you know the truth now. Lucifer didn't exist before the year 382 or so AD. There was no concept of this being before then, and there was definitely no concept of a Satan during the ancient days, the ancient Hebrew days. They didn't have a concept of it. It was just a word that meant the adversary. And much like the Greeks and the Romans and the Mayans and the Incans and the different Indian tribes and on all of these things, they've all developed mythologies surrounding what they had an understanding of in that time and place. And if you understand the context of it all, you can start to realize that what we have come to believe is not what the reality is. So, folks, with that, I'm basically out of time. I hope that this episode has been a good one for you. I hope that this episode is one that you can maybe go back to and have as a point of reference. I wanted to do this episode tonight because, of course, on Wednesday I did the Hell Doctrine. So, you know, kind of this week I've dedicated to bashing the myths that have surrounded us, especially in relation to the Christian religion and the different mythologies that have become prevalent because of that particular religion, as well as the other religions that are out there that have come up with these concepts of creating fear and generating fear to put butts into pews and to make it so that people are so afraid of what's going to happen to them in the afterlife that they give up everything in this life for the sake of that, not realizing that they're giving up their entire spiritual being to it. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this week. On Monday, I'm not sure yet exactly what my topic is going to be, but make sure that you pay attention to my different social medias, and I'll make sure to announce what the upcoming topics are going to be. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter at Open Eyes Network on both of those platforms. If you want to go to the show notes for this show, which I'll have all of the articles linked up on it, you can go to openeyesnetwork.com/OE123. Kind of a rhymey thing there, OE123. If you want to send me an email, which you're more than welcome to do, I will receive any kind of email from you guys. And if you have any ideas for topics for me to talk about, or you have news stories that you've run across that you'd like me to pay attention to, please send them my way. You can send it to feedback@openeyesnetwork.com. You can also go to my Contact Us page there on that website, and you can send me the message through there if you don't want to do it through email. I'll take it either way. If you want to be a guest on my show, please get into contact with me. I love to have guests on here talking about anything, really. Just like Michael Vera on the Late Night in the Midlands, we cover everything here on Open Eyes as well. So whatever you have on your mind, make sure that you let me know. And pretty soon I'm going to start doing a few more live shows as well. I really enjoy doing live, and I'm kind of starting to gear myself up towards doing that. So again, feedback@openeyesnetwork.com. If you want to go to my social medias, those are Open Eyes Network on both Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, guys, keep safe out there and have fun. And thank you so much, as always, for listening.
The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.